For decades, Canada has been the world's fourth largest oil exporter, sending nearly 97% of its crude oil to the U.S. But now, amid rising global trade tensions and aggressive protectionist measures, Canada is boldly pivoting. Instead of sticking solely with its traditional U.S. market, Canada is now forging stronger ties with Europe and China, two regions that are rapidly transforming their energy policies to embrace cleaner, more sustainable practices. This shift isn't just about diversifying markets. It's about leveraging Canada's competitive advantages while challenging the long-standing energy dominance of its southern neighbor. At the heart of this strategy is Canada's large-emitter trading system, large-emitter trading systems. Originally designed to reduce carbon emissions cost-effectively, large-emitter trading systems allows Canadian firms to trade emissions credits at a cost that's as low as a Timbit per barrel. Imagine that. A nominal compliance cost that turns what might seem like a bureaucratic burden into a major competitive edge. With large-emitter trading systems, Canadian companies can essentially neutralize the economic impact of carbon tariffs imposed by markets like the European Union, where the new Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, or CBAM, is set to take full effect by 2026. The mechanism works by leveling the playing field. While European producers face high carbon costs, Canadian companies benefit from their large-emitter trading systems framework, which keeps their expenses incredibly low, around 30 cents per barrel for oil sands. This advantage ensures that Canadian oil remains competitive, even when an extra 1.6% tariff might otherwise drive up costs and erode market share. Analysts suggest that without large-emitter trading systems, the price shock could be even more severe, potentially slashing demand and triggering a substantial loss in revenue. But let's talk about why this matters. For years, U.S. policy, especially under administrations that favored protectionism, has relied on tariffs and other measures to shield domestic industries. The Trump era was infamous for imposing tariffs on a range of products, from steel to oil, as a way to coerce trading partners into better deals. However, these tariffs came with unintended consequences, such as higher production costs for U.S. manufacturers and an overall destabilization of trade relationships. In a similar vein, new U.S. proposals like the Prove-It Act are poised to collect detailed data on the carbon content of imported goods, a move that could be the first step toward additional tariffs on Canadian products. So what happens when Canada, armed with its large-emitter trading systems advantage, decides to pivot away from the U.S.? Simply put, the U.S. could find itself on the losing end of a strategic realignment. With Canadian oil increasingly channeled to European and Chinese markets, U.S. refiners, especially those in the Midwest who depend on heavy crude, could face supply shortages or be forced into costly adjustments to process different types of oil. The retooling of refineries isn't cheap, and such a shift could ultimately drive up fuel prices for consumers. In addition, as U.S. industries brace for higher input costs, the ripple effects could extend throughout the economy, putting pressure on everything from manufacturing to transportation. Now, let's break down the mechanics behind large-emitter trading systems and why it's such a game-changer. First, large-emitter trading systems offers Canadian companies a robust banking mechanism. Think of it as a financial safety net. Firms can accumulate credits during times of low market volatility and then draw on those credits when needed, thereby smoothing out compliance costs over time. For example, Alberta's system has banked enough credits to cover 3 years of compliance, providing a buffer that many U.S. competitors simply can't match. This banking flexibility means that, even in the face of escalating global tariffs, Canadian companies can maintain stable profit margins while reinvesting in technology that further reduces emissions. Another key advantage is the built-in flexibility of large-emitter trading systems when it comes to production cycles. Because compliance costs adjust proportionally with output, Canadian firms aren't hit with a fixed surcharge regardless of their production levels. This proportionality is especially important in volatile markets where output can vary significantly due to external pressures like political instability or sudden shifts in demand. By keeping costs aligned with production, large-emitter trading systems ensures that Canadian companies remain competitive no matter how turbulent the market gets. Now let's talk about the strategic pivot itself. Traditionally, Canada's oil export model was heavily dependent on U.S. markets, a relationship that for decades ensured a steady stream of revenue. However, rising protectionism in the U.S., combined with aggressive tariffs and the threat of further economic sanctions, has forced Canadian policymakers to rethink this dependency. The expansion of the Trans Mountain Pipeline, for instance, is not just about boosting capacity, it's about creating alternative export routes that bypass the U.S. altogether. These pipelines open up access to coastal terminals on the Pacific, from where Canadian oil can be shipped directly to Asian markets like China and Japan, and to European markets that are increasingly looking for reliable, competitively priced oil supplies. What does this mean for the U.S.? In a few words, disruption. U.S. refineries, particularly those optimized to process Canadian heavy crude, could be left scrambling to find alternative sources. Replacing Canadian oil isn't as simple as flipping a switch. It would require extensive retooling, increased domestic production, or a costly pivot to other suppliers, many of which might be located in regions with less stable political or economic environments. The long-term impact could be a marked increase in energy prices, with the resulting inflationary pressures impacting the broader economy. Beyond immediate supply chain issues, there's also a broader geopolitical message here. By shifting its focus away from the U.S., Canada is sending a clear signal. It refuses to be held hostage by the whims of American protectionism. Instead, it's leveraging its competitive advantages, low compliance costs, flexible trading systems, and robust banking mechanisms to secure a more diversified and stable market position. This isn't just a tactical maneuver. It's a long-term strategy aimed at bolstering Canada's economic sovereignty while challenging the traditional hierarchies in global energy markets. As we move further into this new era, it's important to understand that the benefits of Canada's pivot aren't limited solely to its own economy. For Europe and China, where energy security is a growing concern amidst their own transitions to low-carbon economies, Canadian oil offers a lifeline, a stable, competitively priced alternative to more expensive or geopolitically volatile sources. In Europe, where the CBAM is set to reshape the energy landscape, Canadian products that can sidestep steep carbon tariffs become especially attractive. Similarly, China, which is aggressively expanding its energy infrastructure, stands to benefit from a steady supply of Canadian oil, helping it maintain its industrial momentum while reducing its reliance on less predictable markets. But let's not ignore the potential downsides. For the U.S., the recalibration of trade relationships could lead to a significant loss in market share, resulting in economic pain for its refineries and downstream industries. American companies that have long relied on the steady influx of Canadian oil may need to invest heavily in new technologies or alternative supply chains. These adjustments aren't just costly. They could also slow down economic growth in sectors that are already under pressure from global market uncertainties. Furthermore, this shift could trigger a domino effect in North American trade relations. If Canada successfully diversifies its markets and starts favoring exports to Europe and Asia, the long-standing energy interdependence between the U.S. and Canada could be undermined. This would not only challenge U.S. energy security, but also force a broader re-evaluation of trade policies within the region, policies that have, until now, underpinned decades of economic stability under agreements like NAFTA and its successor, the USMCA. Another critical point to consider is the global context of environmental sustainability. Canada's use of large-emitter trading systems and its focus on low-carbon strategies underscore a broader shift in global energy policy. As the world moves toward greener energy sources and tighter environmental regulations, countries that are able to innovate and adapt will emerge as leaders. Canada is positioning itself at the forefront of this transition, showing that it's possible to maintain economic competitiveness while also making significant strides in reducing carbon emissions. In contrast, the U.S. could be left grappling with outdated infrastructure and policy measures that fail to align with the evolving demands of the global marketplace. The implications of Canada's strategic moves are clear. By capitalizing on its unique advantages and diversifying its export markets, Canada is not only protecting its own economic interests, but is also reshaping the balance of power in the global energy landscape. The U.S., which has long enjoyed a position of dominance due to its reliance on Canadian oil, now faces a challenging crossroads. With Canadian firms benefiting from the low cost of compliance under large-emitter trading systems and leveraging this to secure more favorable trade deals with Europe and China, American refineries and energy companies might soon find themselves paying the price for their previous complacency. In summary, Canada's bold pivot away from its traditional reliance on the U.S. market and toward a diversified export strategy targeting Europe and China represents a seismic shift in global energy dynamics. With large-emitter trading systems as its secret weapon, Canada is demonstrating that smart policy and innovation can drive economic resilience, even in the face of aggressive U.S. protectionism. This strategy not only shields Canadian industries from punitive tariffs, but also forces the U.S. to confront the reality of a rapidly changing global market. As we wrap up today's deep dive into Canada's strategic oil coup, remember that these changes have far-reaching implications. From rising fuel costs and potential supply chain disruptions in the U.S., to a redefined global energy hierarchy, the stakes couldn't be higher. Canada's calculated use of large-emitter trading systems and its determined shift toward new markets send a clear message. The global energy game is changing, and those who fail to adapt may soon find themselves on the losing end. If you found this analysis insightful, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated on all our future videos. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest and most comprehensive breakdowns of the global issues that matter. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.